Hello everyone, this is Minal Reddy. Welcome to this my video lecture on structure of electrical power system. I am going to discuss the contents of this lecture are introduction of electrical power systems, structure of electrical power system, concept of base load and peak load stations, and advantages of interconnected grid system. So before starting this lecture, we will know the outcome of this lecture. So the learning outcome of this lecture are, so at the end of this session, learner will be able to explain basic structure of electrical power system with various electrical terms related with the power system. Also, learner will be able to explain concept of interconnected system with its advantages. Okay, so now what is the prerequisite required to understand these topics? So it is a very simple. It requires the basics of electrical engineering and basics of power generation technology. Now let us start with the topics. So first is the introduction of electrical power system. So let us see how that electrical power system are invented. So first, use of electricity as a commercial began in late 1870s, and the credit for inventing electrical power system goes to Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison established an electrical power at New York in 1881, has a capacity of 425 HP boilers supplying steam to 6 DC generators, supplied power to 59 consumers at 110 volt through underground cable system with 1.5 kilometer radius. So the credit goes to Thomas Edison. After that, DC motors are added as a load after invention by Frank in 1884. After that, invention of transformers and AC systems by L. Gollard and J.D. Gibbs. AC electrical power system is possible. Then the first practical AC distribution system was developed by William Stanley in USA in 1886. Now, this is for 150 lamps. Then development of polyphase system, that is three-phase system, is by N. Tesla in 1888. Due to that, there is the increase in attraction of a AC system. Then in 1889, the first AC transmission line at 4000 volt single phase 21 kilometer in North America. After that, in 1890, there is the controversy over AC or DC. So whether we should go for AC system or DC system, what is the standardization of that? So in that, Tesla is in favor with the AC and Thomson Edison is in favor with the DC. So at the end, finally AC system owns because of some advantages of voltage transformation, then possibility of long distance transmission with a high voltage and simpler and economical utilization. So in 1893, first three-phase line in Southern California at 2.3 kV is established. After that, operating voltage and frequencies were not same at the beginning. So some are uses the 25, 50, 60, 66, 125, 130 Hertz. So these are the different frequencies are used, which creates the difficulties in interconnection. So in North America adopted a 60 Hz and many other countries use 50 Hz as a standard frequency to avoid the difficulties of interconnection. After that, some of the voltages like 132 kV, 220 kV for high voltage and 400 kV, 765 for extra high voltage, these are the finalized. Then the AC transmission system was again challenged by HVDC transmission system in 1954 after invention of mercury walls solid state technologies. And HVDC has an advantages to AC for more than 500 km for an overhead line and 50 km for underground cables. So in India, plus minus 500 kV HVDC line from Rihad to Dadri is operational, and in Maharashtra from Chandrapur to Padge it was established in 1999 having the rating of plus minus 500 volt. Also there is the UHV transmission line from Wardha to Aurangabad of 1200 kV. So these are the developments in the electrical power system. Now let us see what is the structure of a electrical power system. So normally this electrical energy is generated at the power stations with a different power stations like a hydro, thermal, nuclear and all, which are usually situated far away from the load centers. We already studied in our power generation technologies in a site selection. So hence an extensive network of conductors between the power stations and consumers is required. And this network of conductors may be divided into two main components called as a transmission system and distribution system. So the generation, transmission and distribution system of electrical power is called as the electrical supply system, or collectively it is called as the power system. So the transmission system is to deliver a bulk power from power stations to the load centers and large industrial consumers, whereas the distribution system is to deliver a power from power stations or substations to the various consumers. We require network. So although the electrical power system can be transmitted and distributed by either AC or DC system. So we have two options, AC and DC transmission system. Also, but in practice, three-phase, three-wire AC system is universally adopted for transmission of a power, and three-phase, four-wire AC system is usually adapted for the distribution of electrical power. Also, we can transmit that electrical power system by overhead and underground system. Then the transmission system may be further divided into primary and secondary transmission. Similarly, the distribution is also classified into primary distribution and secondary distribution. So we'll see in detail how that exactly the structure of electrical AC power system is there. So generating stations, transmission line and distribution systems are the main components of electrical power systems. Generating stations and distribution systems are connected through transmission lines. Distribution systems connects all the loads in a particular area to the transmission line. The transmission system of an area or a state or an interconnected transmission system of a state or a region is called as the grid, and the different grids are interconnected through the tie lines. Okay. So this is all about the structure of electrical power system in general. Now we'll go for in detail. So you can see in this diagram, so it is the typical AC power supply scheme that are normally adapted universally. So the maximum, firstly, power is generated at a generating station by three-phase alternators operating in a parallel at a generating stations. The generation voltage in India is 11 kV. For economy reasons, this voltage is stepped up from 11 kV to 132 kV with the help of step-up transformers. After that, it is again stepped down to 33 kV by step down transformers, and that power is received at the receiving stations. So the maximum generating voltage in advanced countries is maybe at 33 kV, while that in India is 11 kV due to the technical problems such as heating, insulation problem. So the primary transmission voltage are 132 kV depending upon the distance and the amount of power to be transmitted. Then so primary transmission is done at a 132 kV by 3-phase 3-wire system. Then secondary transmission is done at a 33 kV by 3-phase 3-wire system. After that, again that 33 kV is stepped down to 11 kV with the help of step down transformer, and this primary distribution the secondary distribution is done at a 33 kV. Again that 11 kV is received at the substation. From that substation it is again step down to 11 kV. So this primary distribution is done at a 11 kV by 3-phase 3-wire system. So at a primary distribution, the voltage is stepped down to 400 volt or 415 volt, and the secondary distribution lines are called as the distributors, are laid among the roads, and the service connections to the consumers are tapped off from the distributors. So most of the domestic, commercial and small scale industry consumers are supplied power at a low voltage, that is 415 or 400 volt for a 3-phase loads and 240 volt for a single phase load. So in this way, this is our typical AC power system. First it is generated at 11 kV, then it is stepped up at 132 kV, because if we are going for higher voltages, there are advantages to transmit. So that's why we are going for the stepping up. After that, the 33 kV 132 kV is stepped down to 33 kV. Then 33 kV are stepped down to 11 kV, and then 11 kV is stepped down to 400 volt. These are the different steps are involved in that power supply system. Now secondary distribution is again divided into these parts, or you can say distribution system may further be divided into feeders, distributors and service mains. You can see in this diagram feeders, distributors and service mains. So what is exactly the feeder? So feeders are the conductors which connect the stations to the areas to be fed by those stations. Feeders are the conductors which connect the stations to the areas to be fed by those stations. So generally from feeders, no tappings is given to the consumers. You can see in this diagram, no tappings are taken from that feeders. Therefore, current loading of a feeder remains the same along with its length. It is designed mainly from the point of view of its current carrying capacity. It is designed mainly from the point of view of its current carrying capacity, and its current loading is same along with its length. Now next is the distributor. So you can see here, this is the distributors. So distributors are the conductors from which numerous tappings from the supply to the consumers are taken. So you can see here, this is the number of tappings are there. So the current loading of a distributor varies along its length. So the distributors are designed from the point of view of voltage drop. Distributors are designed from the point of view of voltage drop in them. And at the last there is the service mains. So service mains are the conductors which connect directly to the consumers. Service mains are the conductors which connect consumers directly to the distributors. Okay, so in this way, this is the distribution system normally adopted in our country. So this is all about the AC power supply system, which are divided into generating station, primary transmission, secondary transmission, primary distribution and secondary distribution. And secondary distribution is again divided into feeders, distributors and service mains. Now let us see what is the structure of power system adopted in our India. So firstly we are going for what is the grid. Okay, so the transmission system of an area or a state or an interconnected transmission system of a state or any particular region is called as the grid. So grid is nothing but a interconnected transmission network in a particular area. So the different grids are interconnected through a tie lines to form a regional grids. So different grids are interconnected through a tie lines to form a regional grids, and a different regional grids are further interconnected to form a national grid. So each grid operates independently. However, power can be transmitted from one grid to another via the tie lines. Each grid operates independently and also it can transfer from one grid to another grid via the tie lines. So the country has been divided into 5 regions. Our country has been divided into 5 regions. So you can see the regional 5 regions are northern, western, eastern, southern and northern eastern. So our Maharashtra comes in the western region. Okay, so each having with its regional electricity board. Like in our Maharashtra we have the Maharashtra State Electricity Board. So each state has a state electricity board responsible for generation, transmission and distribution, like a Mahagenco, Mahatransco and Mahadiscom. So these are the responsibility of our state electricity board. Now to coordinate that regional grids, we have some central government authorities. So central government has also control over many generating plants, transmission line and substations through central organization, like you can say NTPC. So it is the National Thermal Power Corporation. Then NHPC, National Hydroelectric Power Corporation. Then PGCIL, it is the Power Grid Corporation of India Limited, etc. So after that regional load dispatch centers have been established for coordinating the activities of that state load dispatch center. So we have these different regional grids. To coordinate that regional grids, we have load dispatch centers. We have a regional load dispatch center. So in our Maharashtra we have 2 load dispatch centers. One is at the state load SLDC Kadwa and second is at Ambazari in Nagpur. So these 2 load dispatch centers coordinate the generation and distribution of electricity by that particular grid, and it will responsible for the transmission of the electricity in a particular area. So this is in general we have a power system structure. First is the transmission network. It is called as the grid. That grid is divided into two: regional grid and national grid. Regional grids, in our country we have 5 regions: northern, western, eastern, southern and northern eastern. And to coordinate that regional grids, we have a load dispatch centers. In Maharashtra we have 2 load dispatch centers, SLDC Kadwa and at Ambasari in Nagpur. And to coordinate or to give an operation with that, we have a national grids also, or some central organization like NTPC, NHPC and PGCIL. Okay, so in this way our power system is distributed. Now let us see. Okay, this is already we discussed. We have a state load dispatch center, regional load dispatch center, then national load dispatch centers with our central government authorities. Okay, then let us see concept of base load and peak load power stations. So normally the power stations, generating power stations, are divided into 2 types according to their efficiency of operation and all. So base load and peak load power stations. So the changing load on a power station makes its load curve of a variable nature. You can see in this diagram, this is the load curve, and throughout the 24 hours it is not constant, it is varying with the time. So it is clear that load on the power station varies from time to time. However, a close look at a load curve reveals that load on the power station can be considered in 2 parts. So if you are divided in this or taking some base, so you can divide that load curve in 2 parts: base load and peak load. So now what is exactly the base load? So the base load is, it is a unvarying load which occurs almost the whole day on a station. So in this diagram of load curve, you can see 20 megawatt up to 20 megawatt our load is constant and it is unvarying. So we can say that load is a base load. Okay, and peak load, so the various peak demands of a load over and above the base load is called as the peak load. So you can see up to 40 megawatt, this is the peak load at a particular time. So for delivering that load or for satisfying load, we are divided power stations into base load and peak load. If we have an efficient power plant with a minimum generating cost, so we are going to operate on that base load operation for base load operation. And if we have a little bit inefficient plant or older plant, we can switch on for the peak load and after that we can turn it off. So this is called as the economical operation of a power plants. Okay, so this is all about the concept of base load and peak load power stations. Then let us consider advantages of interconnected grid system. Already we discussed our system is interconnected. So what are the advantages of interconnected grid system? So the connection of several generating stations in a parallel is known as interconnected grid system. The connection of several generating stations in a parallel is known as interconnected grid system. So the various problems facing the power engineers are considerably reduced by interconnecting different power stations in a parallel. Although interconnections of station involves extra cost, yet considering the benefits derived from such an arrangement, it is gaining much favor these days. So that's why we are going for interconnected grid system. And what are the advantages? Let us see one by one. So first is exchange of peak loads. So it is an important advantage of interconnected system is that the peak load of a power station can be exchanged. How? So if the load curve of a power station shows a peak demand that is greater than the rated capacity of the plant, So the excess load can be shared by the other stations interconnected with it. So we don't require excess or extra unit, so we can share with the another power station. So this is one of the advantage. Second is the use of older plants. So the interconnected system makes it possible to use the older and less efficient plants to carry just peak loads of a short duration, not for 24 hours, but for just carry the peak loads of a short duration. So although such a plants may be inadequate when used alone, yet they have sufficient capacity to carry the short peaks of loads when interconnected with other modern plants. Therefore, interconnected system gives a direct key to the use of absolute plants. So this is another advantage. Next advantage is it ensures the economical operation. So what is exactly that? Let's see. So the interconnected system makes the operation of concerned power station quite economical. It is because sharing of load among the stations is arranged in such a way that more efficient stations work continuously. That is, you can say it will be used for base load throughout the year at a high load factor, and the less efficient plants work for peak load hours only. So in this way, if we are going for the combination of more efficient and less efficient plant, we will get economical operation. So this is another advantage. Then fourth is the increased diversity factor. So the load curve of a different interconnected stations are generally different. Okay, so the result is that maximum demand on the station is much reduced as compared to the sum of individual maximum demand on a different stations. So in other words, the diversity factor of a system is improved, thereby increasing the effective capacity of the system. So if we are going for interconnection, we will get a diversity, and as diversity are used, so we'll go for the economical operation. Next is the reduced plant reserve capacity. So every power station is required to have a standby unit for emergencies. If there is suddenly fault or if any one unit is shut down, so to cope up that or to fulfill the load demand, we required the standby units. But however, when several power stations are connected in parallel, the reserve capacity of a system is much reduced because we can share the load in that emergency condition with the other power plant. So this increases the efficiency of a power system. This is one of the most important advantage in terms of economical. Then last is the increased reliability of a system. So the interconnected system increases the reliability of a supply. If a major breakdown occurs in a one station, continuity of supply can be maintained by other healthy stations. So suddenly if one of the unit is break down due to some fault, so in that case, if we are not interconnected, so just we will face the blackout. But in case of interconnected system, that supply can be given from the neighboring power station, and we can go for our continuous operation of power. So this is most important, that is reliability of a power system is increases. So this is all about the structure of a power system. Okay, so thank you.